Shabbat Shalom, family and friends. We are in the 20th Torah portion titled Tetzaveh, which means you shall command. It takes place in Exodus chapter 27, verse 20 through chapter 30, verse 10. It also includes the reading of the prophets in Ezekiel chapter 43, verse 10 through 27. It includes Psalm 63 through 65, as well as in the renewed covenant in Philippians chapter 4, verse 10 through 20. So this Torah portion continues the tabernacle instructions. Israel needed a place for their formal worship of God, so he instructs them to build the tabernacle and the articles therein. So the portion starts off with the light for the tabernacle. The people of Israel are commanded to bring pure oil of pressed olives for light, and the lamps are supposed to be burning continually. Then it goes into the clothing for the priests. God instructs that Aaron and his sons, as his high priests, are to be set apart from the rest of the people of Israel, so they can minister to God and be his priests. They are to have garments that set them apart from everyone else, given their position. So God has prepared skilled craftsmen to prepare these garments. God has filled them with the spirit of wisdom. And what we have is there's a linen tunic, a blue robe that goes over the top, with gold bells and pomegranates made from cloth sewn on the bottom. An ephod, which is skillfully embroidered with gold and blue, purple, and scarlet thread. There's also a sash to tie at the waist and a turban with a gold medallion sealed with the words, "Holy to the Lord." And then there's a main article of clothing I haven't mentioned, which is the chest piece. So the chest piece is a single piece of cloth and attached to the ephod with braided cords of pure gold thread along with gold rings. And the chest piece would have 4 rows of gemstones on it, 3 gemstones for each row, each gemstone representing a tribe of Israel. Now, there were 2 things about this chest piece that caught my interest. First, in verse 15 of chapter 28, it notes that the chest piece is to be worn for seeking a decision from God. And second, verse 29 notes that Aaron will carry the names of the tribes of Israel on the sacred chest piece over his heart when he goes into the holy place. This will be a continual reminder that he represents the people when he comes before the Lord. And this caught my interest because the chest piece is also there for Aaron. So he is reminded that he represents the people. The chapter then goes on to say to insert the Urim and the Thummim into the sacred chest piece, so they will be carried over Aaron's heart when he goes into the Lord's presence. In this way, Aaron will always carry over his heart the objects used to determine the Lord's will for his people whenever he goes in before the Lord. As I reflected on this Torah portion, I found it fascinating how there's control over the high priest's senses. You know, the 5 senses that God has given us: sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. For example, the chest piece is there for the high priest to see and to be reminded of the tribes of Israel that he represents. So this portion starts off with a command to the people to bring pure olive oil. Well, why should they bring pure olive oil? Well, really to keep the lamps burning continually. Well, why do they need to keep the lamps continually burning? So that there's light in the tabernacle. Well, why is light needed in the tabernacle? Well, it's needed so that Aaron and his sons can see inside the tabernacle. Now, God doesn't need that light to see, but the high priest does. And the entire pattern of the tabernacle, everything that they see during their service, it was all designed by God. So it's almost there for them to see and to be reminded of what God has designed for them. Now, even what they wear to the tabernacle is designed by God. And what you wear to the tabernacle also affects another sense, and that would be the sense of touch. The cloth that was closest to the body of the high priest is the linen tunic. And people tend to love linen because it is highly absorbent. It's breathable to wear. Linen is just comfortable, especially when the temperature gets hot and humid. But a lot of people, they know whether there's wearing linen or not. It's something that does affect how they feel and how they interact in the world. Now, so we know that linen is touching their body. There's also a turban for the head, and there's a sash to be felt at the waist. I mean, these are all things that the priest is going to kind of feel on their body. And which leads me to another thing. So that would be the sense of touch. But another thing that's kind of related to the priestly clothing, or that is that attached to the hem of the robe that went over the linen tunic, on the hem of that robe, there were gold bells attached to it. And these bells would tinkle as the priest goes in and out of the Lord's presence in the holy place. And so this is a third sense that we see, the sense of hearing. So the priest would hear these bells as they would move and provide service in the tabernacle. So we've covered sight, touch, and hearing. How about smell? Well, the Torah portion ends with the plans to make an altar to burn incense. And that altar is to be overlaid with pure gold. The poles of acacia wood are also overlaid with gold. And so every morning, when the priest maintains the lamps to keep the light burning so he can see, he must burn fragrant incense on the altar. This is something that's going to provide him something to smell. And when he lights the lamp, he must again burn incense in the Lord's presence. So there's an altar that is providing an aroma in the air to smell. And what I find interesting is that in verse 10 of chapter 30, which is the last verse of this Torah portion, the incense altar is referred to as the Lord's most holy altar. I never quite caught that before, but this is the altar that is providing an aroma, that is offering, that is tickling their sense of smell. So we covered sight, touch, hearing, and smelling. And the last sense is taste. Now, here I go to the dedication of the priest. So the Torah portion covers the ceremony, that must be followed when the priest gets consecrated. Verse 31 of chapter 29 notes, for Aaron and his sons to take the ram used in the ordination. And remember, there were 2 rams. One was provided as a burnt offering, but the second ram would have its meat boiled, and Aaron and his sons would eat the meat. They alone may eat the meat and the bread that was used for their purification in the ordination ceremony. So that is the sense of taste. So each and every human sense, sight, touch, hearing, smelling, tasting, is impacted when the priest performs their duty. And God wants to ensure that all of our senses are pointed towards Him. God cares about what we see. God cares about what we touch. God cares about what we hear. God cares about what we smell. He cares about what we touch or what we taste. One thing that when I first came to Torah, I struggled with the laws with food, because I thought, well, why would God care about what I eat, and what does that make? How does that even make a difference? And so this just proves that God does care about each and every aspect of our lives. And I used to love the smell and taste of barbecue ribs, of pernil, or even ham. And so, but then God cares about that those things are not for me, and cares that I do not taste or smell those things. He cares about all the details of our life. And so we should arrange our lives that all of our senses are kind of geared towards Him, that we kind of live our life in a way that is completely dedicated to Him and is arranged around Him. So as we enter this week, many blessings to you, and I pray that we continue to strive to meet the mark, that we continue to fight the good fight, and to finish the race. Shabbat Shalom.